I'm out in the field today to talk to you about a shoe that I initially thought was wasted money, but that eventually turned out to be a game changer for me. Now, don't expect the latest racing shoe with supersonic technology or anything like that. In fact, this is a rather non-glamorous shoe. It's not so much about this particular shoe, it's rather about its characteristics. Number one, it has a noticeably low heel-to-toe drop. Number two is low stack height. Number three, it's very flexible, it's not rigid at all. There is no carbon plate or stability elements whatsoever. And number four, the foam is quite soft, quite cushioned, I would say. So what shoe is it? Well, I'm talking about the Saucony Kinvara 14 in this case. I guess newer versions would behave pretty much the same. So let me tell you how this minimalist shoe has been a game changer for me. Now, before I forget, the Kinvara also happens to be extremely light, very breathable and quite respectful of my toenails. So that's all good to know, although it's not the point for today. The flexibility and the lack of rigidity of the shoe and the absence of a carbon plate means that basically you have to do the work yourself with your foot to transmit the force from the forefoot, from the ground contact point to the rear of the foot, to the ankle. So that means plantar fascia has to work. It's your foot that has to provide the rigidity and transmit the force rather than the shoe. There is a rather pronounced rocker, but because it's so flexible, it doesn't help that much, and you do have to rely on flexing your toes. So in that sense, this minimalist shoe has been helping me to strengthen my feet in terms of the plantar fascia and the toes. The foam is quite soft, quite cushioned. In fact, once you get used to it, it feels quite good, quite comfy to run in. But that also means the foam is not bouncy at all. So don't count on the shoe to provide some bounce for you. You have to do the work. Your legs have to do the work. Now, as far as the low drop is concerned, let me show you what it means to me. So the first thing is, let's say this is like the position I can reach with my leg extended behind, with my Achilles extended just before I lift the heel. So this is the position I can reach. Now, if there was a higher drop, I could probably reach there, right? So that obviously means a longer stride. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, if you're gonna overstride, which means hit the ground in front of you with your leg extended, then a higher drop will cause you to hit the ground earlier because there is more drop here. So as you move your foot forward, as you're gonna hit the ground, you hit the ground earlier, so you overstride less compared to a lower drop that allows you to overstride a little bit more, a little bit with your leg a little bit further ahead of you. So basically, if you're gonna overstride with this shoe, then your heels are gonna complain more than with a higher drop shoe. So basically, the low drop means that your heel lifts the ground earlier in your gait cycle when you move forwards. So the strain on your calves and Achilles also occurs earlier, and the pressure on the metatarsal heads also occurs earlier. So all that basically leads to a shorter stride and sort of a more vertical jump rather than forward. So your gait cycle ends up being more circular, like with a more vertical component to it, which is not how you want to run ultimately, but it's good for your muscles and tendons. The low stack, what it does is it improves proprioception. You sort of feel the ground under your feet, under your toes. And of course, what it also does is, as you might expect, if you are going to overstride with your leg hitting the ground extended in front of you and at the same time you heel strike, then because there is less foam in the heel, you will feel a much harder ground contact in your heel, and that sort of hurts. So that's why this minimalist shoe sort of forces you to modify your stride and hit the ground with a flat foot, like sort of midfoot striking. And not just that, but more importantly, it also forces you to strike with a flexed knee so that you can absorb the pounding more efficiently. And that in turn, hitting the ground with your knee flexed, means that you're more likely to strike under your center of mass, more or less. And that in turn means you get to work on your ankle dorsiflexion, because if you're gonna hit the ground with a flexed knee under your body, then the angle of your leg with the ground is a closed angle. So you need to sort of dorsiflex your ankle, and you need to do that a little bit more than you would with a higher drop, because a higher drop sort of compensates the ankle dorsiflexion. So let me show you what I mean. So if you're gonna hit the ground, let's say somewhere here, like that, with your knee flexed under your body, then obviously this requires quite a bit of dorsiflexion of the ankle here, more so than if there was a bigger drop, which would put your foot, let's say like that. I exaggerate, but so that would require less dorsiflexion. And it's not just about this position here, but it also requires dorsiflexion during the gait cycle. So here you lift your leg, collect your leg, you lift your knee, and here is where you have to start dorsiflexion so that it hits the ground in an already dorsiflex position. Now notice that striking midfoot with a flexed knee under your center of mass also puts some extra load on your patellar tendon, which is this tendon here. So the bounce ultimately has to come from you, from your legs, your feet, the rigidity of your ankles, your knees. You need to make sure you have a strong core and hips to transmit the movement to your body. So you get to work on all these components, and all this work has to come from you and not from the shoe. And I would say ultimately this feels quite satisfactory. I would even claim that perhaps one easy run in this sort of minimalist shoe once a week is even better than the gym for your calves and Achilles tendons. Of course, you can also complement that with work in the gym, in particular isometric exercises with a lot of load on your Achilles tendons, single leg if you can. So typically when I go to the gym, I do that single leg with like 130 kilos. So I hold it isostatically for 30 seconds, 3 times. So basically it's about twice your body weight. That's a very good exercise for the tendons. Also calf raises, of course, in the gym with a lot of weight. But be careful, don't do too much at the same time. Don't do too much too soon. Also, yeah, you can add plyometrics, like jumps and so on, but really be careful. Don't put too much load on your Achilles, because if you get injured, then that's the end of the game. So all in all, I would say this is quite a lot of interesting benefits for this minimalist sort of lackluster shoe. But there's even another indirect benefit, which is that the shoe sort of forces you to run your easy runs easy enough. Like I said, the foam is not bouncy at all, so this is definitely not a fast shoe, at least not for me. So don't think about rushing your workouts or anything like that, running fast, but rather try to think about your running form and how all your muscles are working, and the tendons, of course. Now, how can you apply that in practice? How can you incorporate a minimalist shoe to your rotation? Well, as always, go progressively. Don't do too much too soon. Don't go crazy. You don't need to buy a zero drop shoe. You don't need to buy a super flat and hard midsole. Make sure you get some cushioning. And yeah, when I initially bought the shoe, I tried to run in it. So I went out and did like 2.5, 3 kilometers. My calves were completely destroyed. I tried again the following week, managed to increase to like 3 or 4 kilometers, and then the next one like 4.5, but that was it. Then I thought the shoe was going to be useless and it was going to be just wasted money. So it actually remained hidden in a drawer for almost a year, and during that year I worked on my form, my stride. I worked more towards a midfoot strike, striking under my body. I did some strength work for the calves and the Achilles tendons. And then recently I reopened the drawer and gave the shoe another chance, and was able to immediately run like 8 or 10k without any major issue, and then progressively every week increased until now I can run about 20 kilometers in them. So I would say, yeah, first make sure your muscles and tendons are properly conditioned. Make sure your form is adequate, and then use them only for easy runs and not more than once a week. And be careful if you're gonna complement that with the gym and plyometrics and that kind of things, because it all adds up and may seem okay at first until one day your Achilles says, I'm done. So be careful, but definitely done carefully. This is a great shoe. I mean, this one, the Kinvara, or in general a minimalist shoe, is a great addition to your rotation. So to clarify, this shoe has been a game changer for me because it has helped me a lot to improve strength of my Achilles tendons and calves and gain some confidence. I'm gonna be able to hold a rather decent running form for at least 20 kilometers. It has helped me improve my form, be more aware of it, has improved my proprioception of how I hit the ground, and I do feel that extra boost and extra confidence when I switch to racing shoes. So okay, at this point, I guess, wish me luck for the Copenhagen half marathon. By the time you get to watch that video, I'll probably be running it. So until I publish the Copenhagen race video, I leave you with these suggestions here.